and I hope everybody's doing good out there. Darmin here again. This video is going to be a reaction to a 10-day Vipassana retreat that I went to here recently, about 2 weeks ago. I'm going to do another video where I actually go into what Vipassana is, more of the techniques and stuff, but this is more of just a reaction to what I experienced. So before going into it, I did a lot of research. I watched a lot of YouTube videos on it, a lot of other people's reactions and experiences. I did a lot of reading on it, just tried to learn as much as I could about it and just get a real feel for what it is that I'm going into. So I already knew beforehand that day 4 is when Vipassana actually starts. I didn't know what was going on the first 3 days, but I knew that day 4 is when I actually started doing that technique. So beforehand, I read into some of the rules that you have to follow, not talking the whole time, not communicating, with anyone, even gestures, and that put me a little off. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to handle that. I like being able to communicate with people and stuff. Some of the other rules, men and women split up, so it just seemed a little odd, and it was kind of funny when I was telling other people that I was about to do this. They were looking at me like, okay, don't drink the Kool-Aid, make sure you stay safe and give us a call. But I couldn't, because another one of the rules is no phones. So no phones, no internet, no books, you can't bring any books, no writing material, nothing to distract yourself. So it's ultimately just you. It's about making it feel like you're there alone, just you and your thoughts. And that's really what it was. So the day of that I got there, I met my roommate. We talked a little bit, got to know one another, and I remember telling him that I knew it was going to be hard, because I knew already that it was 10 hours a day of meditation for 10 days. But I told him, it's hard. I know that it's going to be hard, but I'm up for it. I'm ready for it. Well, little did I know how hard it was actually going to be, because it ended up being a lot harder than I ever could have expected. So that night we did a little 1-hour meditation, group meditation, everybody in the Dhamma hall, men and women. Again, men and women are split up. That's the only place where men and women really converge, is in the Dhamma hall. But men are going to be on one side of it, and women are going to be on the other. Another thing I want to point out is I went to the retreat location in Jessup, Georgia. Great retreat, very well handled, but it too is split up. Men are on one side. We had like a trail in our own. We had 2 buildings where the men would stay, and then women had their side. I think they had a trail, and then they also had a pond that they could go to. So day 1 was you wake up at 4 in the morning, and they wake you up with gongs. I wasn't expecting this. They wake you up with gongs. Just really felt like I was a monk. I was at a monastery, and that was really interesting. So they ring that a couple times, and at 4:30 is when you start meditating. So you meditate for 2 hours a day. Now, for 2 hours before going to breakfast. Before getting into going to the retreat, to kind of help myself, I worked up my meditation to about 1 hour and 15 minutes. I was planning on doing 2 hours, because I heard that was the longest that we sit, give or take. But I really only got up to 1 hour and 15. I will say that ultimately didn't even really help me that much, because at the retreat you'll meditate for 1 hour, 2 hours, and then you'll get up 5-10 minutes, and then you'll be right back at it to meditate again. So that hour that I worked up, an hour and 15 minutes that I worked up to, it ultimately didn't even really help me, because this was, you sit for 1 hour, you sit for 2 hours, you get up, and then you're right back at it again. So there's really no way to prepare for this thing. So I wouldn't even say that what I did really helped me that much. Maybe a little bit, but not too much. So day one was really physically hard for me. The 10-hour day thing, again, I knew it was going to be hard, but I didn't realize how hard it was going to be. And I had a lot of thoughts running through my head and whatnot, but day one was mostly a physical challenge. Day two was a little bit easier, actually, because I already knew what to expect, and it was still physically hard, still have pain in my back and stuff, and I didn't really have my seating situation figured out yet. They give you plenty of cushions. There was about 25 men, 25 women, give or take, and they have plenty of cushions for everybody to use, but I really didn't figure it out how I was going to be sitting, my seating arrangement that second day. But again, it was a little bit easier. I knew what to expect, but still very physically hard. At the end of the day, at the end of each day, there's a discourse where they show a video, about an hour and a half video of Essen Goenka. And for those of you who don't know, Goenka really made this into a worldwide organization. Whereas before it was mostly in India, mainly in India and Burma or Myanmar. He had really brought it to the world and expanded it outwards. And they show still videos of him. He passed away in 2013, but they still show videos of him and use his audio to kind of lead the retreat. But they also do have a teacher for the males and a teacher for the females. Ours, I think they were senior assistant teachers, and they've been doing this for 20 plus years. So, and they were, I think, both Indian, so from India. So a lot of experience. They really knew what they were doing. But ultimately, the meditation is led by audio clips, and the discourses are handled by video clips of Essen Goenka. So anyway, the discourse on day two, I remember Goenka saying, I always tell people day 2 and day 6 are very hard for a lot of people. And I was thinking to myself, day 2 wasn't even really that hard. It was really more day 1 that was a little bit harder than day 2, because day 2 I kind of already knew what to expect. So I said, whatever, okay, fine. So, end of that day, day 3 comes up, a little bit harder. I really wanted to go home. I didn't like not being able to talk to anybody. I thought this was going to be an issue because something that I'd been doing with myself, I've been doing a lot of internal soul searching and personal development for about a little over a decade now. But really working internally for the past 3-4 years or so. And something that I had tried to do with myself is to suppress my thoughts, just try to quiet my mind. Well, you can't really do that. That's one thing that I learned, is you can't really do that because these thoughts are going to keep coming up, especially when you have no one to talk to. You have nothing to distract you. You have no phone, you have no internet, no books, no writing material, no anything, nothing. Just you and your thoughts. You can't suppress those thoughts. But I'll get into that a little bit later. But I ultimately wanted to go home. I miss my family. I miss my dog. I really just wanted to get out there. Still very physically hard. And what we had focused on the first 3 days was Anapana meditation. And Anapana is similar to Zen meditation in that you focus on the breath. But in this case, with Anapana, you focus on, I think the first 2 days we focused on just the nose itself. So the breath going in the nose and going out. And you feel the sensations. It's all about focusing on the sensations within the nose and on the outer rings of the nostril. And then day 3 you focus, I think day 2 you focus on the nose itself, nostrils, and above the upper lip. And then if I remember correctly, day 3 you focus on just the upper lip. And you get to this point where you can feel the little hairs above your upper lip moving, like they'll move up as you're breathing in, and as you're exhaling they'll move down. And it's really surreal, like your mind just becomes more focused and better able to focus on the subtle sensations that are going on. And that was really the whole point of this. the whole point of getting ready for day 4, which was Vipassana. So day 4, we actually started doing Vipassana. A little overview on what Vipassana is. Like I said, I'll have another video where I go into much more detail what it is, but a little overview on it. It's all about scanning the body. So we started off with the top of the head, the top circular portion of the head, and you want to feel some sort of sensation, any sort of sensation. I initially felt tension up here, and then you move on through to the rest of the skull, and then you move on to face, neck, chest, your stomach, and so on. You go through your arms, your legs, and then you come back up again. And what you want to do is to feel any sort of sensations. Day 1, he said, anything that you could feel. Any sort of gross sensations, as in very powerful, big sensations. It could be pain. It could be anything. Even the touch of the cloth or material from your shirt or clothes. Any sort of sensation, just to kind of get you used to it. I noticed initially that there were a lot of blind spots. A lot of areas where generally day to day our mind doesn't focus on. So you're not really used to the sensations around that area. Like for me, the neck was a blind spot where it would be very hard, and I would have to focus sometimes for a minute, 2 minutes on any sort of sensation that I could feel there. Even my thighs too were really hard, were kind of a blind spot for me. But day 4, again, so that was interesting. I liked it, getting into that, but it was still very hard. I wanted to get out of there. Day 5 got even worse. One of my issues was I felt like I knew everything. So 2 of the biggest things that Goenka tries to teach in this retreat is anicca, which means always changing. I think that's in Pali. Ultimately, the things at the beginning and the end. I knew this intellectually. And through experience in my own life prior to going to this. So I understood this intellectually, mostly speaking. And another thing was that life is based on negative and positive sensations. So that we try to cling to positive sensations and we try to avert or stop negative sensations. I knew all this, so a lot of these thoughts in my head, a lot of the thoughts that I was experiencing was, I already know all this, I don't need to be here, I'm not gaining anything from this, this is stupid, I want to leave, I want to go home, I want to see my family, I want to see my dog, I want to get back to work and get things done, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. At the end of day 5, I asked the teacher, now this is the real in-life person, teacher that they bring in, I asked him about something that Goenka had been talking about in his discourses. And he had talked about, you get to a point where, as you're doing Vipassana, you get to a point where you start to feel these really subtle sensations throughout your body, and there's an instant where you feel it throughout your entire body, from the top of your head all the way down to your toes. You feel like this electricity vibrating sense all throughout your body. It's a very, very pleasurable sensation. I had asked him about this because I had felt this before coming to Vipassana. I had actually been experiencing this before I came to Vipassana. I've been meditating for about 3 years, and it was very pleasurable. I enjoyed it. I liked it. And I would also have this sense of when my body was completely vibrating. It's kind of like, think of when you hit a nerve, let's say in your arm, your leg, whatever it might be, and it just gets all tingly. Now that's generally a negative sensation. We don't really like that. It's kind of uncomfortable. But think of that sort of sensation similarly going throughout the entire body, but it's actually very, very pleasant. So I was experiencing that, and I would experience a detachment. I would experience a detachment from my pain, from the sensations. So I would still feel the very strong pain in my back and in my knees, but it was kind of like I was looking at it from an outside perspective. Like I was just seeing it, but I was completely detached from it. No attachment, no reaction to it at all. So, like I said, I'd experienced that before going to Vipassana, but now when I was at the retreat, it had been, it had become much, much stronger. It had extended, and it was lasting a lot longer. And I'd asked him about this, and maybe he didn't understand my question, or he really didn't get into it, but he said, oh, no, I don't really have to answer this. All I will say is that it's coming. And that kind of threw me off. Like, what do you mean you don't have to answer, blah, 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 you know, what do you mean it's coming? That doesn't answer anything. And, you know, looking back on it now, I think he just didn't understand me. But ultimately, that really threw me off day 5. And I'd already been having thoughts, like I said, of leaving, of not wanting to be there, of feeling like I knew everything already. And that really threw me off. That night, again, it's lights out by, I think, 9:30 is when lights out is. I probably didn't get to bed till like midnight or 1. I just kept thinking thoughts over and over again. This is stupid, this is dumb, how can he say this to me? He didn't answer my question, blah, 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 I really want to leave. Very bad. So, the storm was coming, right? Day 6, the storm had really come. The storm was there, full blown. It was very bad. It was very bad. There was a trail, like I mentioned in the beginning. There was a trail. I must have walked that trail like 50 times throughout the course, throughout the entire 10 days. That day 6, I walked, I don't know, 20 times at least, when I wasn't meditating or doing something. Day 6, again, like I said, was very hard. The storm was there. I was trying to suppress my thoughts. I didn't want to think. I was just trying to shut the mind off completely. That didn't work. It just kept coming back. Not to mention, day 6, somebody quit. Somebody from the men quit, and he was in the Dhamma hall. He was sitting behind me, and so I noticed this. I remember seeing him talking to management, and as he was beginning to leave, and then I didn't see him in the Dhamma hall later that day or the days after. But day 6, I was thinking, damn, you know, he gets to leave. I want to leave. This is stupid. I don't need this. I know all this. It was just getting really bad. And then that voice of reason came up and said, no. You need to stay here. This is good for you. And then it kind of just shut up, right? The thoughts kind of just stopped at that point. Fast forward to the end of day 6. Still having trouble. The negativity was coming back. The storm was still there. The end of day 6, discourse. Now, I will say before I get into this, these discourses, if it wasn't for the Goenka videos, I don't know that I would have lasted those first 6 days. Because Goenka was a very wise individual, very smart, somebody that I would have loved to meet, and somebody who I would love to, you know, pick his brain and learn as much as I could from him. But also, he was very funny. So, you know, you would go through entire days of not laughing, of not talking to anybody, of not smiling, and then you would have this discourse, you know, at the end of the day of an hour and a half, and he was actually kind of funny. He would tell these funny stories, these jokes and stuff like that, and it really, like, it made me feel really good. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, smiling and laughing is so awesome. This feels really good. But anyway, day 6, he was going through the discourse, and he said, you know, I told you before, day 2 and day 6 are very hard for people. And I was thinking to myself, yeah, day 6 was extremely hard. It was torturous. It was the hardest thing, one of the hardest things that I've ever been through. And as soon as I thought that little voice of reason came up again and said, you just passed a big hurdle. And at that point, all the negativity had stopped. Went to bed. Day 7, I thought to myself, okay, every time a negative thought comes up, every time I think to myself, this is stupid, I know all this, I want to leave, I want to go home, blah, 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 I'm going to do what Vipassana teaches, and I'm just going to watch. Now, again, what Vipassana teaches is, as you're scanning your body, as you're scanning the sensations through your body, you feel the pain, you feel tingling, you might feel an itch. The whole point is don't react to it. And there was periods, 3 times a day you would have a group sit of an hour long, and it's called adhitthana. So it's called, what translates to strong determination. And the whole point is to sit there for an hour without moving. So you don't want to open your hands, you don't want to open your legs, don't open your eyes, you don't react to the pain and the sensations that are going on in your body. You just watch it. You try to detach yourself and not react to those physical sensations. So, day 7, I used that idea on my thoughts. So every time a negative thought would come up, I would think to myself, okay, I'm averting this place, right? Because remember, life is based on 2 things, what they teach in Vipassana, based on 2 things, positive and negative sensations. Either you're clinging to a positive sensation or trying to avert and stop a negative one. So I think to myself, okay, I'm trying to avert this place. I'm just going to stop, let the thought be, and at that point, the thoughts would stop. The thoughts would end, and my mind would be quiet, and I'd be thinking about that. A little tongue twister. And what I did was, so the thought would stop there, and I would just notice the sensations going on in my body. Usually I would notice tension in the chest, maybe an increase in temperature, maybe some perspiring, maybe a more deepened breath or a faster breath, and I would just sit there and watch. I would have no connection. I would try my best to just detach myself and have no connection to it, and just simply watch it. And I noticed as I did this, it would go away after a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. But ultimately it would go away. Which brings me back to that idea of anicca, always changing. Everything has a beginning and an end. But what I realized is that we extend the negativity in our lives when we ruminate on them, when we continue to think about them over and over and over again. Now, again, this is something that I already knew before going into Vipassana, but I wasn't really using it day to day. I also have a background with not only Buddhism. I've been reading and researching a lot into Buddhism, but Stoicism. And the two are really similar. For those of you who don't know what Stoicism is, it was an ancient Greek and Roman philosophy which kind of taught the same thing as Buddhism. Really, really similar. To not, attach ourselves to positive things, to just kind of let things be as they are, or not try to stop negative things. To just essentially go with the flow and not react to things as they are, and just accept everything that happens in your life. So I'd already had experience with this. However, I was only doing this with big issues that happened in my life, with big sensations, big negativities, big things that were happening in life. However, when I started doing this from days 7 to 10 on all the little stuff, all the little thoughts, all the little negativity that goes on, then I really started to see the power of this technique. I really started to see how amazing this could be on a day-to-day basis. And I started to have an internal calm, an internal peace, much more than I've ever had before. So that's what I was using. So day 7, I started doing that. Every time I would have negative thoughts, wanting to get out of there, averting that being there, I would stop and just watch the sensation in my body, and it would go away. So days 7 to 10 was pretty much smooth sailing. Day 8, more of the same. I still wanted to go home. I still wanted to get out of there, but I wasn't, counting down the days like I had before, and I was kind of just letting things be, We had got into more Vipassana techniques, more differences. Instead of just scanning the body going from top to bottom, this time you would go from top to bottom to top, and back and forth, or you would start scanning adjacent body parts. Again, I'll get into this more in another video, but just getting more focused on the body itself as we were meditating. Day 9, same thing. Day 10, we were allowed to talk. So day 10 was what they liked to call noble chatter. So for the first 9 days is noble silence, right? So noble silence, you don't talk to anybody. Day 10 is when noble chatter comes in, and when everybody gets to talk, and that's literally what we did the entire day. I think the first morning meditation, we weren't allowed to talk after lunch or something like that. Or no, after breakfast I think we were allowed to talk at like 10 o'clock or something like that. Literally all we did. The men and women didn't really mingle at this point. It was just the men. Men and women were still separated. We literally talked the entire day. So if you remember, I said that there were 3 group sits of an hour long. Adhitana, strong determination. That's pretty much all I did. I didn't do the whole 10 hours that day. Nobody did. All we did, other than doing those strong determination 1 hour sits, was we talked the entire day, and everybody was just really, really nice, really compassionate. You could sense the calm and peace in people, and kind of the they all just felt so much better about this thing almost being over, because I mean it was very, very hard. It was very insightful and very great in that aspect, but it was also very, very hard. Day 10 we also did metta banya, and I think is how you pronounce it correctly in Pali. It's loving kindness meditation. I'd heard about it before, but I never did it myself. It's when you focus on sending peace and wishing for peace to all beings, wishing for peace to all people, and you can also focus on individual people who you wish for peace and wish them to have happiness and wish them to find joy in their lives and stuff like that. So we did a little bit of that day 10. We got into that, and so we were sitting in the Dhamma hall, and mind you that within the Dhamma hall it was still noble silence. So you couldn't talk, even on day 10. So day 10 we did the meditation of metta banya, and it was only like 10-15 minutes. But you hear the audio of Goenka talking and him singing, and it's all in, I think it's Pali or Hindi, I'm not really sure. I excuse you guys, or excuse myself, or I don't know. I'm not sure what language it was in, but it was really powerful. You could sense the power and sincerity within what he was saying. And at the end of it, he starts singing, and I think it's him and his wife that were singing, and that they kind of, the audio clip ends there, where they kind of start to fade away. And men and women are separated, men on one side, women on the other, and this lady started crying. And you could sense it. You could sense it within the entire room, that the emotion, the intensity, the power. Here's this audio clip of Goenka singing, him and his wife, as they're fading away. It really sounds powerful, but then this lady is crying, and I mean she's pouring her eyes out. And I started to feel it too. I didn't cry, but I started to feel it. I started to feel the power of it, and that's when I really realized, like, there's something to this. There really is. So I want to say it was an amazing experience, in the sense that had I not gone to this 10-day retreat, the amount of stuff that I learned, I probably wouldn't have learned and realized for another year or 2 years or more, because you're really thrown into this. You're thrown into a situation where you can't distract yourself from your thoughts. You have to face them. Like I said, no talking, no distractions of any kind. It's just you and your thoughts. You have to face them. You can't quiet your mind. You can't shut your mind off. So one of the biggest things that I learned was that, like I said, with the thoughts thing, I tried to always suppress my thoughts. Now I realized that thoughts aren't particularly bad. The bad thing is the quality of the thoughts. Ultimately, it just depends on what you're thinking about and how you're perceiving yourself in the world around you. And, if you can take a step back from that negativity, you can, realize that thoughts really aren't bad. Also, on the positive end, I was clinging in my head to certain positive sensations that I had felt in the past and wanting them to arise again. But I realized that this was, what they had been talking about in the retreat was a clinging to positivity, and that was creating misery. Because I didn't have this in my life, and I was clinging to it, wanting it to come back, wanting to experience it again, but I wasn't able to. And that really, that would bother me. That created misery, that created tension. So I realized that thoughts aren't bad, but it's the quality of your thoughts. Another thing that I realized was anicca, always changing. Again, I knew intellectually that things have a beginning and an end, and experientially. I've had family members pass away. So I knew this through experience, but like I also said before, a lot of this stuff I wasn't using day to day. I wasn't using it on every single situation in my life. I was kind of just using it for big situations, for big things that happen in my life. But then I realized that, these negative thoughts, or this pain in my back as I'm meditating, or whatever it may be that I'm going through at this current moment, and it may not be something really, really bad, ultimately, it's going to end. And I've been using this ever since. I've been using this every single day on all the little stuff, all the little things that I think about, or if somebody cuts me off on the road, just little things, or if somebody, says something to me that I wasn't expecting. Again, little stuff that I wasn't really using this technique on before, but now I am, and it's made a huge impact. Another thing that I learned was, again, the clinging and averting. So I wasn't using this for everything, but now I am. The effects of it are huge. I remember the day 11, it was the morning after day 10, you leave, but you do a little meditation before you leave and you get breakfast. I was driving back from Jessup, and I stopped to get some coffee at a gas station, and I was talking to the person working there, and I just really felt really amazing. Like, I felt really, really good, and we had a nice little talk, and I was telling her about what I just went through in the whole Vipassana thing, and this and that, blah, 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 and she seemed really interested. And the whole drive back, I just felt really calm, really good. I get home, and that first day, I noticed, I was back at it, back into the real world, and, my mom and brother were arguing about something, and I was like, God, I'm already back to this, all this real world arguing and whatnot. And that sense of calm and peace went away. And the first thing I thought in my head was, oh no, it's already gone. I just barely left. This is just day 11. This is the day after all this, and my peace is already gone. No, how can this happen? But then automatically I thought to myself, okay, hold on. That's me clinging. That's me clinging to the positive sensation, positive feelings that I had. Instead of doing that, I'm just going to watch it, because I felt some tension from them arguing. So I would just watch it. So I just watched the sensations within my body, watch the thoughts, whatnot, just let it be. And it went away within, I don't know, a couple minutes, half hour, whatever it might be. And I was back to normal. I was back to that calm state. I've noticed it from other people, saying, hey, you seem really peaceful, you seem really calm, this and that. My interactions with people have been much better. I seem much more calm. I seem much more just better at interacting with people. I feel much more compassion for the people that I'm interacting with. I would recommend it for anybody and everybody. It's non-sectarian. It's no religion. It's not about a religion. That's what they tried to point out the whole time, is that you can be Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Buddhist. It doesn't matter what, Rastafari. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It's for everyone. And the Buddha himself never intended to be a religious leader. What he wanted to do ultimately was to use Vipassana to help people get out of misery. That's really all his goal was, and he did that, and he's still doing that to this day. But it's not a religious thing. It's really for anybody. And the people that were there, I mean, it was anybody from. I mean, there was a kid, he was 18, and then I saw like some of the women that I saw had to have been in their 60s, if not 70s. So just a wide spectrum of people, of all colors, of all background, everybody. So I would recommend it for everyone. What they tell us is they advise us to meditate twice a day, which is, I'm trying to do. It's a little bit harder when you're in the real world. You have other things to get to. And they also have other retreats that you can work up to. They have 20-day, 30-day, even 45-day retreats, which I don't think I'll ever do. I don't know that I'll ever even do a 20-day, but I will do 10 days. I suspect that I will do 10-day retreats every year to kind of help me, continue this and keep this fresh. So like I said, I've been using this every single day. It's been, a huge effect on me. Again, great staff. That location was great, very clean. Everybody was amazing. I really give it up to them in the facility in Georgia. They really know what they're doing, and I look forward to getting back with them again. Let me see if there's anything else that I wanted to get through. No, that's pretty much it. Guys, this is kind of a long video. I appreciate you guys if you sat through the whole thing. I appreciate you sitting through the whole thing. And if you have any questions about it or whatever, just shoot me a quick comment or email or whatever, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. See you guys later. Thanks.